So I already taught you ecological services, and I also taught you that I'm never going to ask you what is an example of a regulating, what is an example of cultural. I'm going to tell you that. Can the AP exam say that? Yes. So I'm being very cautious of how I approach this question. But ecological services, everything, and I told you, will come up almost on every test. It wasn't on the populations test, but it'll definitely come up on the biomes test. So we learned some things 2 days ago. One of them was, let's say, coastal protection. Who can describe how a coastal zone can provide the ecological, the regulating service of coastal protection? I'll pause while you think about it.
A coral reef, like maybe it protects like certain animals and gives them shelter.
Okay, so that is habitat. That's a great way to start, so we're clear. So when you talk about habitat, you're talking about, that's a home for an organism. Totally different subject. Remember one of your tests, there was a question about habitat or niche? Psst. Let me pause. That I taught you 2 days ago from a marine biome that protects the coast. That protects the beach. What aquatic coastal protects our beach? And how? Protects the coast. Or protects anything. I'll take anything at this point. How about protects our climate? Let's start with that. How? So they can protect the coast from flooding. That's an ecological service. There's your answer. Don't be afraid to answer it. It's an answer. I can ask you any of these. Nitrogen fixation. What part of the coastal zone is responsible, or what service in the coastal zone is responsible for nitrogen fixation? Cyanobacteria, which lives almost everywhere in the ocean, because it's a huge component of our ocean, will convert unusable nitrogen to usable forms. I can ask any questions on this wheel, is what I'm saying. It's going to be linked to your notes. I'm not going to ask you questions that are not in your notes, but what I asked you today was linked in your notes. There's another one on purification. Which biome purifies? Huh? Well, which marine biome? Because we're only doing marine. We'll go to fresh after. What's my purifier? Who gets rid of pollutants? Salt marshes, okay? So all the answers are there. All right. Now we were here in the coastal zone. Something that you didn't put in your notes, please add. Every part of the coastal zone receives light. Today we're going to talk about this part of the ocean, which is what? Where are we? You don't have to know the name, but where are we? If we're here, where are we? What part of the ocean? The deep. We call the deep sea the open sea or the oceanic zone, which is obviously the biggest zone of the marine biome. But because we're deep, that means the floor dropped. We're no longer near the shore, or where light penetrates the whole zone. There's a drop. And that's what we call the open sea. Who's seen this phrase, and do you know where it comes from? That's what? Nemo. So we're going to the drop, and every drop has a name. Every layer of the open sea has a name, and the name is referenced with light. Another vocabulary word. So this is the name of the zone. This is the name of the zone here. This is the light in the zone. What do you tell me about the epipelagic? E for epipelagic, E for euphotic. Euphotic describes light. What's the light like? A lot. It's a fully lit zone in the open sea. Okay? And let's remind ourselves of an ecological service that light provides, which is what? Photosynthesis. Wherever there's photosynthesis, there's producers, and wherever there's producers, there's life, right? What kind of life lives here? Large swimmers. Large what? What swims? Carnivores is true. What do we call these things? Fish and mammals, correct. We have large fish and mammals. We do have patches of algae, right, that photosynthesize but the majority swim. Now, I'm going to remind you of what I said the first day. What kind of organisms live in the coastal zone near the shore? Crabs. What is a unique feature to them? They can live in land and water because there's tides there. Also, organisms that are drifters will live there because they can't really swim against currents or fight the tides, okay? Then we swim down. What do you think is going to happen to our light? It lowers. It's going to actually twinkle in and out. It's called the twilight zone or the twinkling zone. I'd like the twilight zone too. And then we go deeper and we're in the bathyal zone or bathyopelagic. They all end in the word pelagic, where light will be in and out. So what do you think is going to happen without light? No photosynthesis. And without photosynthesis, what do we not have? A lot less life. Literally limited life. I feel like organisms that are here are kind of like they're confused. They're in the wrong place. They're confused. It's almost like a travel zone. Anybody have a biome that's a travel zone within their biome? I hope you know that. Somebody has it. All right, A for abyss, A for aphotic, which means no light. We're in the deepest part of the ocean. Okay? Although there's no light in the abyss, there is this. What is this? Volcanoes. What do we know that we already learned happens? Chemosynthesis. Now, I'm going to remind you everything about these volcanoes because this is something you already learned in this class, and it's important because what is that, like the easy definition of chemosynthesis? Chemical. I love it. Chemical energy. What the chemical energy is made from what? So the heat from the hydrothermal vents is one. What else is the hydrothermal vent releasing? What chemical? What do volcanoes release? Carbon dioxide? It does. But the two main things, sulfur. So you've got CO2, we're in the water, we've got heat, and we've got some sulfur compound. The key here is water, CO2, and heat. What do they make? Glucose. Start of the food chain. Who does this? Bacteria. If chemosynthesis is making glucose, what is bacteria considered in the deep ocean? A producer. And where there is producers, there's what? Life. The deep ocean is actually the third most diverse biome in the whole marine biome. It found a way. No light? Okay, we'll find another way. They are pretty weird looking. What is unique about them? They're clear and they have their own lights. So they could see. I know. What is this? Yes? What makes trenches? That is the Marianas Trench. What kind of shift? They come together and form a dip. Convergent plates form trenches. And trenches make up the last zone, which is only in some parts of the deep ocean, which is called the Hadal zone. So I'm going to show you this picture here. We'll just jump here. If I give you this picture, try to label it, by the way. Try to label this. Any part. Go. The coastal zone. What's this right here? Let's name the zones, the zones, the zones. Let's name the zones of the open sea. I can't believe I just recorded that. Open sea. Once we're in the open sea, we have layers, okay? But look at what's happening. What did you learn this layer was? Epipelagic. E for epipelagic, E for what?
Fully lit.
Fully lit. Look at, no matter where I go, this is a fully lit zone. Do you see it? Like, honestly, these things should be here. Light penetrates all of this. The whole coastal zone is fully lit. Doesn't matter where in the coastal zone you are, light should penetrate that whole zone. The next one is meso, then bathyal, then abyss. Now watch. Abyss can be right here, which is the last zone of the marine biome, of the coastal zone. I'm sorry, not the marine biome, the coastal zone. The only time you will have this is when you have what? A trench. So hadal zone only shows up in your diagram. If I give you a diagram like this, you don't label this part hadal. This part would be abyss. Only if you see a drop in the floor, it's hadal. And by the way, the floor is called the benthic zone, which is the slide I skipped. Can there be light in the benthic zone? Where? What part of the marine biome's benthic zone receives light? No bathypelagic. The coastal zone. It's a fully lit zone all the way to the floor. As soon as you drop, epipelagic's floor is down here. Mesopelagic's floor is down here. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I'm done.